Welcome to the Quantum's Connection podcast. I'm your host, Delore. These are my co-hosts, D, E, and Mountain. Tonight's topic will be nihilism. So, gentlemen, what's our first idea about nihilism?
I don't like it.
You don't like it? Well, give me some specifics. Let's not just go with I don't like it. What specifically do you not like nihilism?
Well, being a Christian, I find intrinsic value in every living individual, right? That's the first thing. Secondly, I just can't align with this idea that things don't matter. There is a right and wrong, and there is an order to the universe that we live in.
I don't think that's what nihilism really stands for, though.
No,
well, no, that's not what it stands for, but it's ultimately what this is going to touching base on is pessimism, like we were discussing before.
I think that pessimism and nihilism are two very different things. Nihilism, depending on how you skew it, is the idea that nothing matters. And there's the optimistic nihilistic approach where if nothing matters, then you're free from dealing with all the problems of the mortal world, essentially. And you can free yourself from the pessimism of the world because nothing matters. Therefore, whatever you decide to make matter matters.
Yeah, but negative nihilism always ends up dwindling down into pessimism is what I'm touching base on here.
Doesn't always.
It depends on the person, to be honest. Pessimism is still the idea that humanity doesn't do good, but, there are good things in the universe. As if God, that kind of stuff. Nihilism is the idea there is no God.
Well, it's the philosophy of nothing.
Exactly, there is nothing. No greater meaning.
I'm not sure that it discounts any existence. It just doesn't rely on it. I think that nihilism, if we're going to break it down, there's the base of what nihilism is. And then there's all these additives to it, like these modifiers and adjectives where it becomes compound words, right? So just pure nihilism, I think, is the acceptance of the fact that you don't know what happens before or after life. All we can really believe in is what we experience during life. Therefore, it's unimportant, not necessary to be a guiding light for our actions. So in its purest form, to me, it reminds me of the Jordan Peterson quote. Hopefully we don't have to pay him any royalties. And we need something in the intro for the disclaimers and something. We don't owe you money, and this is for commercial non-use, and cheese is good and you're bad and you should feel bad kind of disclaimer thing. Anyway, where he's being interviewed and they're like, well, what if it wasn't illegal? How much would you be? Like, well, zero, because I'm zero much of this, regardless of the outside laws and consequences. It's not something that I feel like fucking doing. So a nihilist is just saying, what I do isn't because of some kind of boogeyman or post-life karma or something that I can't really know. It's, I might affect someone's life just by being here now. And what you're talking about more is like, well, a pessimist nihilist, which is really the point for what we see out there is, well, I don't really care because what's the difference, sulking and negativity and just being, low negative vibes kind of person, and then chilling with all these other people that are also in that hive, and they're like bees shaking their ass and spreading this hot misery, and they retreat to these corners of the internet anonymously a lot, and then over time not so anonymously, and then they're brazen enough to go out and be openly miserable. Well, you need to embrace my misery, and I think that's where we're at socially, is this wave of open, aggressive, negative, pessimist attitude with the excuse of nihilism.
Yeah, I suppose. Kind of what you're saying is that it clings onto what nihilism actually is as a shield and doesn't stand in itself, is what you're saying, right?
Well, I think it's a excuse that's temporarily used, because when they're called on their bullshit, well, what's the real difference? Oh, well, who cares? Well, life doesn't matter. But they're so passionate that it's a weak and vague excuse. I don't think it really holds water.
Yeah.
I don't think you
Fair
can
point.
be that passionate about something, about what others are thinking, or not accepting of you. It seems very childish. So I think it's a misguided and misinterpreted veil. It's a borrowed term. It's a misnomer to chalk it up to any kind of nihilism. Because for me, when I was going over the source material, right, we have Dostoevsky's Underground Man,
Right.
just a typical curmudgeon, who's trapped in this hellish cycle of his own repetitive thought patterns and applies it to the world, and just that's, this is what you can expect from your nihilist. This fucking miserable guy who's miserable by himself. Doesn't matter where he is, he's got misery for you. Versus the purest understanding of it, which is just letting go and being in the moment, which is more like Buddhism or Zen Buddhism, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, like I'm free from the trappings of thinking about things in terms of, well, it must be important to this thing I can't really prove, later in life or afterlife. Just being able to live in the moment and accept life's beauty in that moment as the moments pass, instead of being caught up in the past or future, which is a beautiful thing. I think that's more like if everybody could operate on that wavelength, we'd have no problems. That's more of a spiritual attunement.
You really don't value anything as a nihilist. There's no foundation to any value. That's the whole point. Nihilism, it gives way to nothingness. Like, there is nothing there. That's why it comes from the word annihilation. Like,
it means nothing.
You give way to nothing. There's nothing. Like, it means nothing. Everything means nothing. And it's literally an ideology that is for the severely disturbed and depressed, that they have no value. There's nothing grounding them. It's a very I'll sit on the edge of this cliff until something happens kind of thought pattern.